when we first got married, we talked about having a big family, and that did not happen. That was out of our control. So we have 2 biological children. Whenever we knew that we were not going to be able to have any more children, we were in our early 30s, and that's when adoption, that conversation first started taking place. But I think we always knew in our heart that we just had enough love that we just loved kids.
Be able to share it with everybody.
Early in our marriage, we were very active in our youth group at church. We, as youth sponsors.
And we've been mamas and daddies to a lot of kids throughout the years.
And there was kids that just didn't have anywhere else to go, that we just kind of took them in, I guess, and loved on them. And some of them had really bad home lives, and we tried to fill that gap. Brian met the father to our youngest little boy, literally picked him up on the street one day walking.
Yeah.
And that is where this journey really, I guess, started unfolding. That was about 14 years ago.
Right.
And I just believe that was a God thing. He just seen this kid walking down the street. He is a busy street, and he stops and asks if he needs a ride. And from there, that relationship began between him and Brian. He didn't really have any family, so we there kind of filled in that gap. He spent a lot of time at our house. We were there for birthday parties and high school graduations, and Brian taught him how to drive, and just the basic things that he didn't have the father there to do. So he became a part of our lives, and he was always, wherever Brian pastored, he attended church there, so he was part of our ministry in a way too. And we did get that call. He got married, and his first child was born. There was some issues there and some concerns about the welfare of the child.
Yes, there were.
And basically, we were asked to take this 4-month-old baby for a few weeks until some things could be done, that their parents could get on their feet and kind of get their lives together and be able to parent. All of this we thought was temporary, but here we are. Almost 4 years later.
Yeah.
And wouldn't take anything for it. It's been a joy. There's been some hard times. There were some issues, some developmental delays and things that we had to work through. We were not told the full story to begin with, so we had no idea that addiction played into some of that. So some of that we just learned literally day by day, as we went, like Brian said. I think that when God places that call, if you will, on your life for adoption, it's always going to present itself somewhere down the road. It may be 5 years, it may be 15 years, but it's like that little seed that he plants in your heart, and then that seed grows, and then all of a sudden one day you've got that phone call or that knock or that interest to become a foster parent. So a couple of years later, baby's sister came into the picture, and she was taken into custody straight from the hospital, and CPS reached out to us because our little boy, the 3-year-old, was the next of kin.
Right.
And that's when we became licensed foster care providers and opened our home to her so that they could grow up together as a family, as siblings, and that was real important to us. I think it was a beautiful thing to witness that sibling bond taking place when we did our initial visits at CPS. It was just very unusual to me to see how it's like they knew. There was just something,
there was a special
there.
bond, a special connection there.
From the beginning. She was 5 months old when they met, when brother and sister met. So I really can't explain it. It's one of those things that you have to witness. When we were approached by CPS and asked if we would be willing to take this on. We had a lot of people praying for us and with us for about a month before we made a decision because, we are not spring chickens. We're getting a little bit older.
She's not.
Don't you love that? But we wanted to make sure that we were doing it for the right reasons. And just one day we knew, we just had a peace about it. And so from there we pursued the classes, did the home study, and
well, I think it was really after the first time we met her and the two siblings met.
Yeah.
That we kind of knew, hey, we can't. They deserve a life together. They deserve to live together and be a part of each other's life.
Absolutely. I don't know if they would have known each other. I don't know how the story would have ended. But I think Brian and I knew that some part it would be sacrificial, but they were worth it. And we seen the bigger picture. And there are days when we look back and seeing how it unfolded, and you can just see God's hand through all of it.
And then there's other days we want to pull our hair out. Well, I always say they found us, we didn't find them.
This is true.
It's been a long journey, but people ask that we meet. They ask us how we got children, and I always tell them they found us, we didn't find them. We were not looking to start off with, but God seemed fit for us to be able to adopt.
Yes, He did. And I would just encourage anyone that's feeling interested, or like maybe that's something that they want to do, or that maybe God is calling them to do, don't let your age interfere with that decision. And it's really not about your capability as much as it is your willingness. And that's something that I had to learn.
Right.
I think I've learned so much about myself and so much about parenting, even at this point, even though our older children are, pretty much almost grown. One's already out of the house and on her own. We're still learning.
Yes.
Still learning. And this man is a legend when it comes to dads. I'm here to tell you right now, when you look up legendary fathers in the dictionary, that picture.
Take notes.
He really is. We could not have done this if we had not been on the same page. Because there are times when I'm just exhausted, honestly, and he comes in and
I have the energy.
He takes over, and then there are days when he's exhausted, and because we both work and he pastors, and life is just busy right now. But God always just provides that little bit of rest that you need somewhere along the way, just enough to catch your breath.
Or that little bit of joy from a smile or from a giggle, that gives you that energy again to keep up and going, especially when you're tired at home. And you come in from work and you're exhausted, but then that little smile runs up to you, and then all of a sudden, you have your energy level back.
Our children, our older two children, have definitely been an asset and a blessing to us. They both have been involved in this, and we talked to them before we made any decisions, because it was important to us that their opinion, and input was taken into consideration as well. And especially our son, our 16-year-old, he's really good with them.
Yes, he is.
And on adoption day, he was up and ready on his own. I didn't have to wake him up. He actually got up early and had his shower and was dressed and ready before anybody else was. Now, he may not have said, "I'm so excited," but it was,
I think he's more worried about people thinking that our children are his children and not ours. Oh, Lord, I can't see life without them. When they come into our home, they become our children and our responsibility. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to think about life without them, really.
I think it'd be boring. We kind of walked into this backwards, I guess.
When the daddy gave him over to us, he was put in what they called a safety plan. So CPS was not involved. They worked with us, but he was not in their custody.
Right.
He was in our custody.
And we were not licensed foster care providers at that time. When we had him for about 8 months, the parents signed legal custody over to us to keep him from going into foster care because there was an open investigation, and they had 6 months to kind of get things together, and that didn't happen. So the parents willingly signed custody of him over to us, but they have not really had, after that first year,
they've had no interactions with him whatsoever.
He has not seen his birth mother since February the 11th of 2016, and he hasn't seen his birth father since last May. So it's been over a year since he's seen his birth father. I wish that I could tell you that they were in a good place. It was always our hope that they would be able to be parents and get things together
and get their life straight.
You know, it would have been so hard to part with him, but at the same time, we understand that, you know, they're his parents, his birth parents. But now, it's a whole different story. He's not going anywhere.
No, he's not going nowhere.
So we have began the process to adopt him. Our attorney recommended allowing Ansley's adoption to go through first, and then
would speed up the process of his adoption.
That way, if we presented them at the same time, if there was any problems with one, the other adoption could be held up. And so we'll be filing those papers in a couple of weeks, actually. And so he will have a different name really soon.
You know, everybody's scared going into this. And, you know, we had to learn patience because it did not move as fast as we thought it was. So that would be one of the first things that you really need to understand is it's not a speedy process. It is a time-consuming process, but it will happen.
We really got to the point where we had peace about it. We knew in God's time that it would happen. Don't try to do it in your own strength. Just don't, because you're going to wear yourself out. I work at a pro-life crisis pregnancy center, and we're a nonprofit, so we do free services, and we have a material assistance program. I'm a nurse there, and I counsel with girls on a daily basis. You know, they're contemplating abortion, but we always present adoption as an option, because so often I think our culture just says that's the only option you have. You know, if this pregnancy wasn't planned, then abortion is the only option. And I'm now able to share with them how adoption has changed our life and the beauty of that, and how God can use the worst circumstances, or what's conceivably the worst circumstances at the time, and make something really beautiful out of it. At the end of the day, when I come home from work and they're so happy to see me, we have a nanny that comes to the house and keeps them at our house, and they're banging on the window, "Mama's home, Mama's home." You know, they're both reaching for me. I can't get to them fast enough, you know, because they're just, I mean that much to them.
They're that excited.
They're so excited to see me, and they love unconditionally. And I think as you age, you grow and you learn things, and our experience from being parents before, I think, just make us better parents now, honestly. And to know that we have the opportunity to mold and shape two precious little lives.
To be productive in society, and you know, to be able to be good young men and women.
And to see them achieve whatever the
Because
plan is that God has for them is just, that we're just a part of that. It's just really incredible.
It is. I'm excited, nervous.
Just overwhelmed, I think, and just what an honor it is that God chose us to allow us to be the parents of 2 children that we do not.
It was consent from the state to be adopted by the Beeches. The guest of honor on this one today is Mr. Nathan Riley.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's not the children's fault. And the children deserve a family. They deserve a mama. They deserve a daddy. They deserve to be loved, and they deserve to be able to experience love from parents. I think that outweighed all of our fears, all of our uncertainties, all of the what ifs.
And to be quite honest with you, as believers, we're charged to take care of the orphans and the widows. And I feel like it's so important for us as Christians, especially today, to back up the things that we're saying with our actions.